lighting that wasn't the best. There's a lot of noise. Just finished doing a 13-hour shift, and as I was hopping off the truck, I didn't see the forklift, and the forklift driver didn't see me, and he just called me and drove me along the ground. We wanted to come over here to Australia because my wife had a family that were in the building game in Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah, so we wanted to start a new life over here, bigger place, a lot of opportunities, great place to live and, really enjoying it. I was a driver-operator operating a sludge gulper. At the time, I had an offsider that was working with me. He was very young at the time, and we had just finished doing a 13-hour shift. And as I was hopping off the truck, just shutting down all the machinery and that, and as I was hopping off, because of the area that I was working at the time, lighting that wasn't the best. There's a lot of noise, and because it was wide open, and as I hopped off the truck, I didn't see the forklift, and the forklift driver didn't see me, and he just called me and drove me along the ground. So my whole life just changed, from there. Having put that, I was caught right under the forklift and they just drove me along the ground. I can't remember a thing, and I'm glad I don't. So remember, I already gave you a clue how many people there on site. From the darkness, it jerked me out onto the light. So how many people do you think would have saw this injury? Yeah. Would have been hundreds. And then, wow, it just changed their whole life completely that day because, there was blood everywhere. My skull, all my chest and everything, all my whole body was just caught underneath the forklift. I can't remember a thing, and I'm glad I don't. But having said that, could be one of you people here in this room here today, whether you're male or female, went up to that forklift driver and had to stop him because he didn't realise he had me under there. And when he was stopped, he got out. How do you think he reacted? Do you think he was happy? Just imagine he was blasé to what was going on,
Shock.
Yeah, well, yeah, shocked, but he got out, he swore at the guy going, what the heck, stopped me for now? And when he got out and he looked straight down, he saw me stuck under there. Wow, his whole life just changed.
I was preparing dinner and the phone rang. And it was Kahi's manager that said that Kahi had an accident. He had broken his leg and was on the way to the hospital. So the high car turned up and we went to the hospital and realised that it was a totally different scene because I was put into a private room, and then the surgeon or the doctor or the registrar that was on that day came in and spoke to me and told me that Kahi had had a severe accident. He still had his work clothes on because they had said they had given him, obviously, painkillers, I'm assuming morphine, from the accident site. And I was told that the ambos had to resuscitate him on the way. So, he wasn't conscious at all, but I was just able to say hello and then quickly go out because they had to do what they had to do. But the prognosis at that time was life and death, really. I got a phone call early in the morning to let me know, or to get permission for the surgeons to do the first amputation. So they did up to the knee first, and then we were allowed to go in the next day. He was on life support for a while. They tried to get him to breathe on his own, because obviously there were things happening internally. what I can remember, his pelvis was crushed. So they used a device to try and join it together, which was 2 rods inserted through the pelvis and a contraption at either end to hold it. And then they realised it didn't work, so they had to take it out. And then he got gangrene in the lower limb that was amputated, so they had to go higher, and that's when the amputation was to the hip. Then he had picked up some sort of virus that was internal, and I just can't remember the name that they called it, so they had to bring in another specialist that dealt with viral or some sort of virus internally because they couldn't identify what it was. So he was brought up from Sydney as well. There were just lots of little things that were happening, and eventually obviously the amputation was to the hip bone. He had to do a number of scans on the brain because if you have a brain injury, then obviously the thought of I think water on the brain or blood on the brain, it could have made it more severe because he wasn't responding to anything else to try and bring him to. And then they tried to do an insertion through the throat, try and get him to breathe. That didn't work. So I was put into another private room with his 2 uncles who were there at the time and the head registrar of ICU. So basically because Kahi wasn't responding to anything, they could not get any reaction on their machines at that time. His heartbeat was slow, all that sort of medical stuff. So they had thought it would be best to turn the machine off. So they were going to allow myself.
Funny enough, when I turned the life support machine off, I started to come to. You know, amazing, after taking all the, sedatives and that off, and, they prayed, and then that's when they turned it off, yes. What is the message there? What am I trying to say there? I'm trying to say to you, especially men out there, men, be good to your wives. I had an appointment to see my solicitor. Well, when I was just about to get up at 12 o'clock to leave after seeing my solicitor, he put his hand on my shoulder. And that's when he asked me the question, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. He goes, Kahi, what's your opinion about the forklift driver? He goes, Kahi, things don't look very well. He's on suicide watch. Hey, they're going for a divorce. All those sort of factors, all those things compound. He goes, Kahi, I've got his address here. I thought you might want to go and see his wife. So I went there. Knocked on the door. Hey, no answer. I looked at my time, 12:15. Hey, only 15 minutes to get home to where I live. And all I was thinking about was my tummy, of course. But as I went up the driveway, who do you think was there? Was the wife. His wife. Now you put yourself in that position, men and women. What sort of reception do you think I got from there? Makes you think, hey, don't get me wrong, a lot of people say, oh, okay, she would have come up to you and cuddled you. Remember, she didn't know who I was? Well, I thought she didn't know who I was. And I thought, yeah, she might have done that, but no, things have changed. I reached out to shake her hand and introduce myself. Say, hi, my name's Kahi Peru. And she looked at me and she goes, I know who you are. And she pulled her hand away and she just, man, she just let me have it. She just swore at me, called me everything under the sun, And I looked at her and I thought, wow, this lady here is pretty game. I didn't know when I want to kick her up the backside or, But then I thought, oh, this could be my wife. So, you know what I mean? And I thought, wow, I've got to step back. And that's what I had to do. I stepped back, and that's when I thought, hey, Kahi, I've got to tackle it from another angle. And then I stepped forward, okay? And then that's what it's about, men. Sometimes we've got to step up to a lot of things. And when I stepped up, I said, you know, I'm just here to see how you and your husband are coping with everything. Wow. When I said that, like a can of words just lifted off her shoulder. She just pulled down, you know, she dropped down, she just cried really loud. And that's what happened, you know. And she, you know, so I shared with her, so instead of just blocking her away, I went up to her and I cuddled her. And that's when I cuddled her. I don't know if I'm bar soap. And it released her from that, you know what I mean? So what she did from there, she invited me in their house for a cup of tea. I looked at the time, remember I was supposed to be home at 12:30? You know, hey, I was there till 4:30 in the afternoon. And I said, look, I've got to call my wife to let her know I'm back for tea. You know, I knew I was supposed to be home for lunch. And she goes, oh no, you can't leave now. My husband's going to be coming back because he just got a phone call. He's coming back on a taxi. So he comes back, same thing again. Here we are, two men, very emotional, hugging each other there. Hey, as I was about to leave, you know, it's 8:30, 8:45. And he said, oh, you can't leave now, okay? But hey, do you understand, people? What I'm trying to say, it's not all about me. It's not all about you. You know, it's all about a lot of things. But it was a learning experience for us all. But what I'm trying to say here, though, is at the end of the day, I received a phone call from my solicitor 2 weeks later. And he said to me, Kahi, I just got a phone call from a third party, from the solicitor and the psychologist, saying that the guy, you know, the family, that, you know, because they were going for a tough time, and they said that, hey, they just wanted to thank you, that, hey, they're back together again and everything else, because things weren't looking too good. And that made me feel really great, you know, that, hey, you know, life's about going forward. My offsider was only 18 years old, first day at work. That same guy, believe it or not, yeah, he was off work for about 18 months, 19 months. He was on medication. And that's, so just think about that. So like I said, it's just not me. It would have affected him. And slowly he got back to work again, you know. And it was funny actually, because after a while when I went back to work, I saw him and I looked at his shirt and I knew straight away the shirt he was wearing, only supervisors wear that. And I looked at him and I said, hey, how you going, mate? And he goes, oh, good, Kahi, I'm glad you're here, because he said to me, look, Kahi, I've got, you know, about 50 guys under me now. And you can remember, he's younger than a lot of them, you know. And he goes, I hope you don't mind, Kahi, but I'm doing a safety talk, you know, HNS thing, and I'm just wondering if I can get your permission to talk about your injury. Wow. I looked at him and I said, mate, that'll be fine. He was emotional, he was crying. He said, oh, Kahi, you just don't realise, you know. I said, no, I do actually. But, and he said, look, I'm going to be speaking to them in the next 15 minutes. And I said, oh, okay. I said, mate, well, if you don't mind, I was just about to give his name then, but I said, yeah, okay, mate, you don't mind, I'll sit at the back and I'll listen. He goes, yeah, you want to listen? So I listened, and it went on for about an hour when he was talking about it. Everyone in the room, I tell you what, you couldn't hear a pin drop, and very emotional faces. And there was one guy there. He's only a small guy, but, you know, he had a beard, you know, a really long beard, and his name was Animal, you know. He's one of the gang fellas, you know. And he goes, oh, man, you know, and he goes, you know, he goes, man, that was so beautiful. He said, too bad that guy's not here. He goes, well, actually, Animal, it's your day. He's right behind you. Yeah? And I stood up, you know, and I looked at him, and he comes over to me, and he goes, oh, man, you're a big fella, you know, and he comes up to me, you know, and he hugs me, and he goes, man, that's awesome. And they're all talking to me, asking me all these questions. I didn't have a problem with that. And he was crying too, of course, the guy who was working with me at the time. But it's about going forward. Do you understand? For him, even his life, because I don't know how he accepted in his life when it happened to him, because it's from a different angle. The truck that I was driving, you got to remember all the panels and everything else used to be on the passenger side. They did consult with us. They said, oh, Kahi, what's your opinion about us swapping all the panels from the passenger side to the driver's side? And I said, you know, really, because there was a senior guy there before me, and he goes, oh, no, it doesn't matter which side it's on. And I said, no, it is actually, because I think if we have it on that side, you got to remember all the forklifts and everything else that are moving around all the time. You know, I said, you know, someone could be injured. You know, this is way before my injury happened. And they went with him, you know, when he said that. So obviously he came back, you know, and that was recorded too about that, you know, what I said, you know. So like I said, I know what you're probably all thinking, you know, but like I said, after my injury, when my injury happened, they swapped it from that side back to where it was again, and no injury happened after that. The work environment that I was working in, look, this is like a Christmas tree. There was only 1 or 2 lights flashing on and off. So what is that telling you? Yeah, it's not a very good sort of work environment to be working in, isn't it? I mean, would you work in an environment like that? The noise factor in there was horrendous. Remember, this is 24/7 production all the time. You know, and the job that I was doing was very dangerous. Now you think about it, 1993, how fast do you think the forklift would have been going?
Faster than you could.
That's right. So how fast do you think that would have been, roughly?
35, about 30.
Yeah, that's right. And you got to remember he's carrying a load too as well, so do you think he could see me? You know, but hey, you got to remember how quick they are. When the injury happened, what did they do? They actually shut down that whole plant there, just that plant alone, okay, for 3 months to do all those alterations. Now you think about that. How much money do you think they would have been losing roughly a day in that area? Remember, there's one of the major blast furnaces there too. So how much do you think they would have lost a day? Yeah, it was about $4 to $5 million a day. So you work that out over 3 months. A lot of people always hear about safety and think, you know, it's something that, you know, you only just switch on when you go to work, you know, or switch on when you leave work, you know. Well, I'm telling you right now, safety is a way of life. When I was in hospital, when I woke up from my injury, you know, and I thought to myself, you know, why me? You know, I was actually looking up to the, you know, the heavens and saying, God, why me? And then, you know, a voice came back to me and said, why not me?
Good night from day 10, the last night of competition here at the Summer Paralympic Games. Let's take a look at a few of the other results from today. And we'll start with powerlifting, where Kahi Puru, who celebrated his birthday on the opening ceremony of these games, in 7th place, and in the 100 kilo division, Darren Gardner in 7th.
You know, I was actually looking up to the, you know, the heavens and saying, God, why me? And then, you know, a voice came back to me and said, why not me?